Get ready.
All rise. Lake Circuit Court is now in session. The Honorable George C. Paris presiding.
You may be seated. Good morning. Forgive me. Hung up in the weather traffic. Good morning. We would like to welcome everyone today to Lake County Circuit Court, where we begin each year with our annual memorial ceremonies, where we honor, remember, and pay respect to our colleagues in the profession who have passed on in the last year. We are glad you are with us today. Before we commence any further, I would like to wish everyone a healthy and prosperous new year, and I'm sure this year will be better than last. At this time, I would like to recognize the leaders of Lake County Bar Association. This year's incoming president, Jacqueline Taylor King, who's sitting right there. Also, the immediate past president, Mr. Michael Tolbert, and Dan Joe. There's some motions and supporting matters we have to dispose of. Mr. Joe.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for attending this 25th annual Lake County Bar Association Memorial Service, honoring those deceased practitioners who passed during the year 2014. Judge Richards was responsible for, James J. Richards was responsible in 1989 for bringing this ceremony here to Crown Point, where it has been held every year on the first business day back to work as the first order of business each year. I'd like to point out that at the conclusion of the ceremony, I'll be moving that the comments made by the various speakers and eulogists be spread of record in this court forever and for posterity. I'd like to thank in advance Mary Slappendorf, our court reporter, who has faithfully and loyally transcribed the proceedings here in this courtroom for as long as I can remember. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank Debbie White, our Executive Administrative Director. From the Bar Association. Without her assistance, this ceremony could not take place each year. So without further ado, allow me to introduce our incoming president for the coming year 2015, Jacqueline Pillard.
Thank you. Good morning. It's my pleasure and honor to be here today. I had never actually attended an equality ceremony for the Lake County Bar until Congressman, who I worked with for quite a few years, passed away. And the first time I attended one of these ceremonies, I was really moved by it. And the fact that not only colleagues, but family members, loved ones, co-workers, judges, were all here to memorialize everybody that had passed in the air park before we began 2015. So I'd like to thank all of you for coming. And I'd also like to thank, obviously, Dan and the Ecology Committee for putting us together. I do believe that the first person you are going to be honoring is Judge Spetnoff, and it's going to be Judge Kara.
Good morning, one and all.
Your Honor. Yes, sir.
Colleagues in the bar. It's really with a sense of profound sadness that I am here today to honor and pay respect to someone who is a very old and dear friend of mine, and that's Gerald Spetnoff, the judge of the Lake Superior Court Civil Division, Room 4 in Gary. Here today is his son, Joseph. I'm seated in the front row next to him, his nephew, Wayne. And I hope my words this morning will bring some comfort to you as we honor and pay respect to, in my mind, one of the greatest members of the legal profession I have ever met. I first met Judge Spetnoff after he became a judge in the Civil Division in Room 4. And for whatever reason, we had a connection. Now, I don't know, those of you who know me know that I'm Assyrian by ancestry, on my father's side. And Judge Spetnoff is a Macedonian. And I always call him the great Macedonian whenever I spoke to him. Always reminding him that the Assyrians came before the Macedonians, which would really get us going. But he was a man of great intellect and good humor, and respectful of everyone that ever came to him. But he was also a man that was very much dedicated to the rule of law and the principles of law, no matter how difficult the rules were to apply. I've told this story before to folks, and those of you who've heard it before, bear with me. I want to talk about 565 Harrison Street in Gary, Indiana. 565 Harrison Street in Gary, Indiana. I know exactly where that house is. I grew up not far from there at 760 Jackson Street in Gary. I had the privilege of serving Judge Spetnoff as his law clerk back in the 80s. And we had a case in front of us involving 565 Harrison Street in Gary, Indiana. And what had happened is that this house had been owned by a Latino woman who could speak very little of any English. And she had bought that house on a land contract. And with the land contract payments also came payments for the taxes and the insurance on the home. But she paid it off. So when she paid it off, she quit making the payments and therefore quit paying the taxes. And lo and behold, property was sold at a tax sale to none other than her next door neighbor, who saw a great opportunity to take advantage of someone who perhaps was a little bit less fortunate than her. That case wound up in Room 4 while I was Judge Spetnoff's law clerk, and the lawyer representing the plaintiff, the Hispanic plaintiff, was none other than our own Bob Rucker, who is now on the Indiana Supreme Court. He filed suit to try and set aside that tax sale. And as often it was when I was Judge Fetner's law clerk, he wasn't looking for someone to tell him what he wanted to hear, so much as what the right thing to do was, no matter what. And he and I went back and forth many times over many cases. But on this particular one, I mean, my heart went out to this woman. I mean, I was so outraged by this because, you know, she knew her next door neighbor. She knew who these people were. They knew who she was. But yet they took advantage of her. They never warned her. They never went to her and said, hey, your property is up for tax sale. Why don't you go in and pay the taxes? But rather than do that, they took advantage of her. And I thought that was wrong. And so did Judge Spencer. But he said to me, John, you've got to give me a reason to rule in her favor. You have to find some irregularity in the process by which that property was sold to the next door neighbors. And so I hit the books probably harder than I ever had in my entire life to try and find a way to help this woman out. But I couldn't. There was nothing irregular about that tax sale. There was nothing illegal about what they did. There was no fiduciary duty between the next door neighbor and this woman. And so at the end of the day, Judge Svetnoff had to rule in favor of the defense. A very difficult thing for him to do. But what does that say about him? What does that say about him? That says that this was a person that was faithful to the law, no matter how difficult it was to apply in a given situation. And in my mind, that was his strongest attribute as a lawyer, as a judge, and as my friend. He honored me by calling me his friend. And he honored each and every person that came into his courtroom, rich or poor, black or white. No matter who they were, it didn't matter. It was what their case was about and how the law would apply to that. So we honor him today. And I struggled a little bit with what I might say here today about him. But really, when it comes right down to it, it's easy. Because he was truly a great man. I have hanging above my desk in my office a saying by Ralph Waldo Emerson, which I always look at. And when I look at it, since his death in January of last year, I often think of him as I read it. And I just want to share this with you. This is a quotation again from Ralph Waldo Emerson. To laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to earn the appreciation of honest critics and endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate beauty, to find the best in others, to leave the world a little bit better, whether by a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition. To know even one life has breathed easier because you have lived. This is to have succeeded. I think these words should inspire us all. I think of Jerry when I read them. I know how much he loved his family, how proud, very proud he was of Joe and of Wayne and of his grandchildren, Alexander and Natalia. I mean, talk to me all the time. They'd say, "What are you doing this weekend?" Well, I'm going to Alexander's baseball game. That was one of the highlights. And as a grandfather now, I can appreciate all that. So, I hope he's resting peacefully, because there's no one that has ever served the people of Lake County more, or his family more than him. And I hope that God is letting him rest in peace.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning.
Please report. Good morning, members of the Lake County Bar Association. I have the distinct pleasure and honor of speaking about Cora M. Vaughn. I knew Cora's daughter, or I know Cora's daughter, Zanta Myers. She attended Valparaiso University School of Law, and she wanted me to apologize for not being able to be here today in order to speak kind, generous words about her mother. But thank goodness for the age of technology and Facebook. Zanta was gracious enough to provide me with a statement that she wanted me to speak into the record. So I'm going to say what Zanta wants me to speak into the record identically. Bear with me. Her statement is as follows. I wish I could be there to thank all of you in the Lake County Bar Association in person for this gesture of remembering my mother for her works as a member of this esteemed organization. She was a proud member of this bar and was proud to call the Lake County Bar Association her home base. My mother was fierce in everything she did. She worked as if there was no obstacles, and she lived as if there was no end. She reveled in the fight. She taught me how to grow in the fight. She believed that the purpose is in the fight. So, as we say goodbye to our fallen soldiers, I want to remind you that whatever you are advocating, it is worth your best efforts. Fight for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike, for those comments. Let me remind you another housekeeping matter. We have coffee and rolls at the conclusion of the program. Please stay and visit with us and our eulogists briefly. On behalf of the Lake County Bar Association and the Honors and Neurology Committee, we invite you to stay. Next on the list is a fellow named Vito Gray. Vito is one of those lawyers who is forever emblazoned, his memory is forever emblazoned in the minds of the young associates at Spangler, Jennings, Spangler, and Doherty. He began the practice of law there, and quite significantly, he would have been number 5. Spangler was William S. Spangler Sr., Jennings was Harry J. Jennings from Valparaiso. The other Spangler was Ronald T. Spangler from Crown Point, and Doherty was Patrick J. Doherty from Valparaiso. Next in line was Vito Gray. Vito started the practice when the law firm was formed shortly after 1952. And when I started in 1975, the wives' tale or legacy or urban legend was that no lawyer has ever left the Spangler firm. It's such a great place to work. The only people that leave are the ones that die. And then when I went and researched the firm and its original founders, Harry Jennings and Bill Spangler, I learned that Vito Gray was a lawyer that had been an associate there at the firm. And I said, well, what was he like? Well, Harry told me, Vito had a boat up on Lake Michigan. And after a while, he learned that he loved to be on his boat much more than he loved to practice law. And since the associates all started at Spangler Jennings on a 50-50 basis, they made or produced or were compensated for half of whatever they brought in. Vito found it very difficult to exist after a short while because he really enjoyed his boat. I met him once or twice a few years after learning that much about him. His obituary that appeared in the paper when he passed away on November 2nd says that at his specific request, all services will be private. And so we're going to honor Vito's memory and make the comments very brief on his behalf. But I want to point out that he passed away July 24th of last year in Newport, Rhode Island. I had an opportunity to tour New England as a senior in high school with my older sister who was attending Manhattan College. And we visited Cape Cod, Provincetown, the beautiful sights and scenery of New England, and Newport, Rhode Island, where we passed through. My favorite vision of New England and that summer was at Walden Pond, Henry David Thoreau's famous scenic reserve that he made famous and wrote about. And every time I think of Walden Pond and New England, from this point forward, I'll also be thinking of Vito Gray and his boat and his memory. And I'm sure if Harry Jennings and Bill Spangler were here now, they would also remind you of how much Vito enjoyed being on these boats. He was 85. Next, Chuck Zanstra. Chuck's son was on schedule to appear today and present his eulogy on behalf of his dad. I met Chuck at a Lake County bar function at T-Boats. All-you-can-eat perch, boned and buttered, and fried chicken, which, you know, I'm a New Yorker originally, but someone who's always enjoyed his food. And T-Boats has always been a favorite place of mine. Chuck's brother Bart had passed away, I think, 2 or 3 years before he did. He passed away on September 21 of 2014, leaving his family and friends to, quote, meet his Savior, Jesus, and all those who have gone before him. Chuck Zanstra was born on June 22, 1933 in Highland, Indiana. He was the son of Charles B. and Sadie Zanstra. He's survived by his beloved wife, Arlene. He's the loving father of 5 children. Kent of Chicago, Linda Marie of Holland, Michigan, Michael and Cheryl of Lansing, Illinois, Michelle and Matthew of Cherville, and Megan of Chicago. Mr. Zanstra graduated from Highland Christian School and Iliana Christian High School, Calvin College, and the Valparaiso School of Law in 1958. He served with the 5073rd Logistical Command Unit of the U.S. Army. After his military service, he married Arlene, who survives and resides in Grand Rapids, Michigan. He established his law practice in 1960. And for a little perspective on that, I would have been 10 years old in 1960. So Mr. Zanstra was a veteran. He practiced law in Lake County until December 31st, 2007, 7 years ago. Arlene and Chuck traveled extensively to over 30 countries and enjoyed their cottage and family and friends on Lake Macatawa in Holland, Michigan for many years. He was an avid water skier. For those of you who knew my former partner, Dick Mayer, from the Spangler firm, Richard and his wife took a 6-month sabbatical and traveled around the world for one of his most memorable birthdays. And we didn't think it was possible for a fellow to actually leave, travel around the world, and then want to come back to work and practice law. But he did. One of the fellows that he visited with and was mentored by was Chuck Zanstra on all the ports of call that Richard and Dixie were privileged to visit that year. An avid water skier, he also enjoyed driving his powerboats and pulling skiers and tubers. Mr. Zanstra actively supported Christian education at all levels. He served on the Board of Trustees of Trinity Christian College, Elam Christian School for Special Needs and Handicapped Children, Camp Roger, the Christian Schools International, and the Middle East Reformed Fellowship. He was a member of Highland Kiwanis. And the legal counsel to the Lake County Women's Center and numerous other non-profit institutions and churches. Chuck Zanstra was a member of Faith Church in Dyer. He was an ardent student of the Bible. His private library is replete with theological and educational books. He was passionate about his faith, was strong and direct when discussing his core beliefs. His faith was unwavering, whether there were happy times or trials in his life. His faith and family were his passions. He was forever grateful for God's many blessings. He had three favorite sayings in closing. Count your many blessings. The whole world is in his hands. And contend for the faith which was once for all entrusted and delivered to the saints. To God be the glory. Chuck Zanstra passed on September 21st, 2014. Three comments from loved ones and friends. Doug Wynkoop of Cedar Lake. Our thoughts and prayers are with your family at this time of sorrow. Mr. Zanstra was such a great guy. Many great memories growing up. He will be missed by all who ever had a chance to meet him. Carolyn Melee of Portage was his employees. I worked with Chuck on and off for many years before and after he retired. He was always a pleasure to work for. I always enjoyed his conversation, his spirit, and his faith. Prayers be to him and his loved ones. And lastly, Sue Minton Alexander of Crown Point. Mr. Zanstra will always have a special place in my heart because he helped me adopt my two daughters. May God bless you and your family. Sue Minton Alexander of Crown Point. Charles Lee Zanstra. And lastly, as chair of the committee, I present these comments about Jerome Repo. Jerry Repo was a legislator. He was also introduced to me by my former partner, Dick Mayer, at Samuel James. Jerry Repo died on October 1st at the age of 89. He had been born in East Chicago. He was a 1943 graduate of Catholic Central High School, which is now the Bishop Noel Institute. Jerry Repo enlisted in the Army and served in Guadalcanal during World War II. Following his honorable discharge, he attended Butler University, and he earned his J.D. from the University of Miami Law School in 1953. Harold Davidson is up there. I'm sure he knew Jerry. A lot of Jerry's contemporaries were among people like my father-in-law, Tom Dumas from Rensselaer. He was a member of the American Bar Association, the Florida Bar Association, the Indiana Bar Association, and the Lake County Bar Association. And Jerry Repo practiced law for 60 years. He was elected to the Indiana House of Representatives in 1972, and he served the people of Lake County for 18 years as a legislator. His service included the Stewardship Committee, the Holy Name Society of St. Thomas More in Munster, the Monsignor Connolly Council of the Knights of Columbus, where he held 4th degree, the Abraham Lincoln Assembly. He was past president of the Sarah Club of the Calumet area, past president of Hoosiers Boys Town, and a board member of the Campagna Academy Foundation and Citizens Savings Foundation. He was a member of the Notre Dame Club of Northwest Indiana and the Council of the Sagamores of the Wabash. He and his wife Pat were recognized by St. Thomas More Parish for their many years of commitment to Catholic education. A lifelong White Sox fan and baseball historian, he also coached Little League in Munster, simply loved his Irish from Notre Dame football, and in recent years he also enjoyed singing with the Hartsfield Village Voices Center choir. He was survived by his son Jim Repo of Colorado, his daughters Laura of Maryville and Nancy of Flossmoor, Illinois, Mary of Munster, Julie of Dyer, 7 children, Kathy of Elm Grove, Wisconsin, and Carolyn of Munster, also survived by 18 grandchildren. Mr. Repo was preceded by his beloved wife of 59 years, Patricia, and both of his parents. Memorials were to the St. Thomas More Foundation. I have one comment to read honoring Jerry Repa and his passing. Julia and family. While I haven't seen your dad, this is from Attorney Tom Hoffman. While I haven't seen your dad in many years, I remember him well from when he was in the State House. On many occasions, I would be in Indianapolis to support the police profession and would speak with him about those issues. He was always a gentleman, totally approachable, and sincerely cared about the well-being of policemen, firemen, and teachers. Even though he was of the, quotes, other party, quotes, from most of the unions, he was always well respected by all and endorsed for his representation by the FOP, the Indiana State Teachers Association, and the Indiana Firefighters Association. My deepest sympathies to you all on your loss. Jerome J. Repa from Munster, Indiana, passed away October 1, 2014. And now to speak on behalf of Thomas C. Granick, a practitioner from Hammond. Jackie?
Thomas Granick lived in Munster, passed away at the age of 78 on October 25th, 2014. He was born at Hammond, and he was a lifelong resident of the Calumet region. He was a graduate of Hammond High School, where he played varsity basketball and golf for both schools. He also played golf for Northwestern and basketball for Northwestern. He is a member of the Hammond Sports Hall of Fame for his athletic achievements. He was a salutatorian for his graduating class at Belmont Law, ODU. He was an attorney in Northwest Indiana for 36 years, and Dan tells me that he practiced with Cordell Funk and C.J. Smith, although I did not know Mr. Granick. During his career, he served as an arbitrator and as a head Hammond City Court judge. His obituary notes that he'll be remembered for his intelligence, his athletic ability, and his generosity. He was survived by 2 daughters and 6 grandchildren, as well as 2 brothers. And he was preceded in death by his wife Janet and his son, as well as 3 brothers and 3 sisters. Thomas Granick passed away on October 25th, 2014. And then George Dragus is the next one, and Paul Davidson is going to say a few comments.
Good morning.
I've got a terrible cold and cough. I tried to hide in the corners, but I didn't hide well enough to keep the place of Dan Joya. He said, "Did you ever know George Dragus?" And I said, "I did. I don't know if I know well enough to do much of a eulogy, but I do remember George." When I first started practice, I had a couple of condemnation cases in the early 60s. George was Deputy Attorney General, and we tried a couple of condemnation cases involving the reconstruction of Indianapolis Boulevard in Hammond into Highland, I guess. George practiced by himself most of his career. He was a rather quiet lawyer. He was understandably proud of his Marine Corps background. I'm sure most of the war. George was very quick to correct anybody that ever referred to him as a former Marine. And George would say, "Once a Marine, always a Marine." But I'm just no longer an active Marine. And George was an active member of Post 369 in Chicago. I think that for many years he was a very, very strong supporter of his activities for the Hammond Bar Association, and he was not to be remembered and respected by the country. I just want to say one thing about Tom Granick. I talked to Marty Royer for the purpose. I was a couple of years ahead of Tom Granick in high school. Tom was a great schoolboy athlete. And the Granicks were all great athletes. And Tom was inducted in the Hammond Sports Hall of Fame. One was his older brother, Johnny, that he graduated in 1945. And Johnny went to Michigan State on a basketball scholarship. And his roommate was Robin Roberts, who became a great pitcher. But I've heard many times, and Marty's heard the same story, so it's got to be true. And that is, when Tom was playing golf at Northwestern, they had a match where he was paired off against a guy from Ohio State named Johnny Nicholas, and the guy, something like that.
I chuckle because I always advise my children to try to learn something new every day. And if they didn't come home and volunteer that to me, what they had learned was, and I'd tell them, or ask them, please tell me something I don't know. I think that's one of the main reasons why I really enjoy this position, and why we always enjoy coming here and learning about the lives of our former practitioners that we had no idea. But thank you, Harold, for your personal memories. I would also be remiss if I didn't remind everyone that my predecessor in this position was Lowell Enslin of Hammond. God rest his soul. And hopefully I'll have a successor coming along any year now. Those of you who want to volunteer, notify Debbie or Jackie to be chairman of the committee here. Lastly, I would be remiss if I did not at least note the passing of Max Cohen on May 30th of this past year. Max Cohen of Cohen and Piros, the law firm, consistent with the wishes of his family and his son and daughter, we have not had a eulogy presented on his behalf, but we do want to note his passing. He was a great motivator and practitioner from Lake County. And lastly, before we wrap this up, on behalf of Terry Smith, Attorney Martel B. Royer. Marty?
Thank you, Dan. I had the pleasure of being able to, if you want to call it a pleasure, of attending Terry's funeral, and the family asked me to speak on his behalf. I think probably because I've probably known more or longer than anyone in the family. Terry and I first met in 1965. We were first-year students in the Indiana University School of Law. And we both had just gotten out of college. We both were on scholarship track at UAP at IU and I at Western Michigan University. And of course, we're both half-milers, and we had a lot to talk about in law school. And we became quite good friends. And unfortunately for me, he got employed by a Teamsters union. I'm not sure about which part of it, but he had to move to Indianapolis to complete his law studies because he was organizing the Teamsters union there and setting up their presence in Indianapolis. So he got his degree in Doctor of Jurisprudence at Indiana, but a year later he got another Doctor of Jurisprudence from the law school in Indianapolis. And he's one of I've never heard of anybody having two Doctor of Jurisprudence from separate law schools, but he did, and he was proud of it. I have reviewed the obituary of Terry. It's quite lengthy, so I'm not going to waste your time. I have several copies here if anyone wants a copy of it, but it sets out pretty much his family history. Talks about a lot of his clients and his successes. So what I'm going to try to do today is tell the rest of the story. As many of you may know, Terry and his partner, Tony DeBonis, initiated a lawsuit against the state of Indiana, and it was, I believe, in May of 1974. It was Sonnenberg versus Otis Bowen, and we got a judgment. I'm not sure about where it was. I think it was in either a court or Rensselaer. I'm not sure about where it was. But we got a judgment for $28 million for unpaid compensation for services performed by patients in mental institutions in the state of Indiana. And in addition to that judgment, you got costs and attorney's fees of $14 million. And of course, getting a judgment and collecting a judgment, as we all know, is two different things. And he spent I think it was 1991 where the Indiana Supreme Court overturned the judgment. So he played around with that thing for, my math is correctly, about 17 years. And spent a lot of money, but didn't get any of it back. But Terry had always indicated to his friends and myself that it wasn't about the money. It was about people being used in mental institutions to perform services for the state of Indiana. He also, that was not mentioned in the obituary, but there was another significant case, I don't know if you recall it, where the city of Hammond decided to condemn some properties so that they could build parking lots and other structures for the casino, which was coming. And I think the city offered I'm not sure about the name of the company, I think it's Great Lakes Marina. And they offered them like $6,800 for the property. And so the owners came to Terry saying, "You're putting this out of business for $6,800. Terry didn't think it was fair, so he sued Hammond, and got a judgment in the amount of $5.2 million, plus $650,000 for attorney's fees." So this is a situation which exemplifies Terry's personality. He would always take a case and involve 100 dogs if he thought that they were being in some way taken advantage of. And money really didn't mean that much to him. I mean, I'm not saying he was a rich man. I think he was collecting some of his judgments after he became a lawyer, but I don't think that when I first met him, he was a man of means in any way. But he was the type of a person that just enjoyed life. I first met him in the legal field when I became a prosecutor in the felony division, and he, speaking of Lanning, he was working with Mr. Lanning in 1970 as an attorney, an associate, and then he was working for the prosecutor's office as a jury trial attorney, a specialist. And I sat in second chair of many of the jury trials in the felony division, and I learned a lot from him. I learned how to try a case, how to try a jury case. And he was just an outstanding lawyer. In my 45 years of practice, I've not known a better qualified lawyer to handle any kind of case. And he always this is my opinion, I always felt that he liked the honor of helping people, especially the Sonnenberg case and the condemnation case in the city of Hammond, helping little people maintain whatever rights or dignity they may have had. And it's not to say that he didn't get something out of it. Obviously, there's fame and fortune, and I think that he lost money. He didn't get a fortune, but he got a lot of fame. And I hope, and on behalf of the family, that I hope at this time that he is able to rest in peace. Thank you. Oh, and I do have, if anyone wants an obituary, I do have it. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. Lastly, I would ask that anyone who knows family or loved ones, anyone interested in obtaining a copy of the video, digital copy of this morning's proceedings, please see Deb White. She's in the back of the courtroom, and she has a list where you can leave your name, address, and or email, and we'll arrange to forward a copy of these proceedings to you. I must say, as a footnote to Terry Smith, I did speak with his longtime law partner, Tony DeBonis, who had been on travel vacation to Florida and actually did return to Northwest Indiana for the funeral service. And after he returned back to Florida, and I called him on his cell phone, he apologized. He just couldn't make another trip back here. But the most impressive thing about Smith and DeBonis in Highland, where I visited a number of times, and at the time Dave Gladish was an associate there, and they had a few other associates, was the waiting room where the $1 million verdicts were reprinted in bronze and hanging on the walls of their waiting room. It certainly was a message sent to any opposing counsel to be on guard when you're up against Smith and DeBonis. Terry Smith was also from a long line of jurists. Alden Smith was the judge of the LaPorte Circuit Court sitting in LaPorte. One of his uncles, and a lot of Alden Smiths before him. So we honor Terry and his memory. The purpose of this entire ceremony is to honor those who've gone before us. And Your Honor, on behalf of the Lake County Bar Association, all of those present here today, all of the family and loved ones of all the deceased attorneys that have ever practiced in Lake County, I'd ask that I'm honored or moved that we spread these proceedings of record to be preserved in the annals of this courthouse forever and posterity. Thank you.
Motion's granted. Thank you, Mr. Jar and President Pierre King. Before we do conclude, at this time, I would just like to thank all speakers for sharing their time and gracious thoughts and comments with us. It is important for us to remember not only that our colleagues existed, but that they mattered, and they made a contribution and made a difference. And that is why we recognize them, remember them, and honor them today. In their lives, they honored us as members of a profession made nobler by them, and as men and women, they are gone but not forgotten. Our business being concluded this date, this hearing is now in recess till this time next year. Thank you. The court stands adjourned.
All rise.